follow along. So Bryce, if you want to record it, thank you. So thanks for coming. I told the 2012-13 group that we haven't announced coaches for any of the teams yet, except for the 12s and the 2011s. Only because we're still in the midst of hiring a few coaches who we are excited to have join the club, but also we have a lot of parent coaches, and so placing kids on teams without going through a tryout doesn't seem fair to the rest of the club and the rest of the kids that have to go through the struggle of knowing what teams are going to make. So, but anyway, Sam's going to come back with the 2011s, which I think is pretty good for this group. Sam does a great job with the girls, and we're excited about that. Let's see here. What else are we going to talk about? We have hired a new technical director, Victor Martinez, who's on the chat, and he's going to be in charge of the girls program going forward, as well as the nine-a-side program for both boys and girls. We're also going away from, and I didn't talk about this with the 12s, 13s, which I forgot, but we're going away from our partnership with SCA for a couple reasons. One is we did a whole lot of work for SCA from a organizational standpoint, and the benefits we got were allowing some of our girls teams to play with SCA, as well as travel to some tournaments with them. But we've had mixed reviews about the travel tournaments. It's been a whole lot of money for people, and also I don't know if the experience has been the best thing for us. So we decided to kind of circle the wagons a little bit with our girls program, be more of a community-based program, and really focus on taking care of the people here that are wanting to be here, and really trying to build our program up and really focus on that. So we're excited about that change. That does not mean that we're not going to travel with teams. This 2011 girls teams had really good success throughout the whole time they've been involved in the club. We want to continue to support that. So things like going to Pac Northwest or going to additional tournaments, that's something that we support and want to continue to make happen for the group. And our thought is to make sure that we're really focused on those things. So I'm going to introduce Victor real quick, and then I'm going to say a couple more things. But Victor came to us from Northern California. He ran his own club for 10 years. He was also part of Los Gatos Soccer Club in Northern Cal and had a lot of good success there. And has coached a lot of high-level players. So, and he's had experience with running clubs and like I said, running ECNL teams and other what we call alphabet soup. Kind of the DPL, ECNL, everything you can think of under the sun with letters now that's going on in U.S. soccer. So our focus is to make sure we just stay in OYSA and then travel to tournaments that are the appropriate level for our kids and also within the budget of a lot of families. So that doesn't mean that we're going to give a subpar experience. We feel like the coaching staff that we have, Sam, Victor, myself, and some others, that we feel like that's a pretty good thing for this group. Couple other little housekeeping things. Today we sent out a coaches evaluation, and we send that out to everybody in the club. So if you have more kids in the club than just playing for Sam, please fill out coach evaluation for each one, the head coach as well as the assistant, because we're taking that data and using it. The other thing is we sent out today coaches or player evaluations to our coaches, and they've got a deadline of a week to get those back. And Victor's going to talk about what that player evaluation looks like going forward. We're going to evaluate the kids twice a year, so after the end of fall and at the end of spring. And it's taken us a while to get the club to a point where we have the organization bandwidth as far as technical directors to be able to do this. So really super excited about getting this information out. And it'll go through, you'll see the form. It's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to read. And then also you can contact the coach. And also Victor will know every single player in this club on the girls' side, and so he can also talk to you about your daughters and how they're going. So I think that's about it. I'm gonna turn this over to Victor. He's got about a 10-minute presentation about basically vertical integration in our club. So one of the things we're trying to do is we're going to be doing, and we've been working towards that, but we're definitely going to put our foot down and really hammer this out with our coaches, is that we just want to have a playing style in our club, way we train, keeping it interesting, making sure technical directors are involved in how those session plans are done, and that we're following a curriculum so that we can make sure that we're actually monitoring development of the kids, but are they having fun? Does it work? And then a playing style. And we call this a game. There's a game model, and we're going to coach to the game model. So I'll let Victor kind of take it from here, and then we'll hopefully have 5 to 10 minutes for questions. Okay. All right. Thanks, Victor. It's all yours.
How you doing, folks? Good evening. Thank you for being here with us tonight. And I just want to go through this for the sake of time. We want to go through this pretty quick, so I'll get straight down to some of the topics that we want to get to here. Bryce, you put that up, or you want me to do it?
I can do it again.
Okay. So let's skip over to the slide 6 again. I think it is. Yeah. So I want to stay with this one here, folks. This is the main core of soccer. These skills right here that you see, this fundamental focus, is what we want to really get our coaches to focus on, which is the receiving the ball, under control, the passing, and the dribbling, the shooting, and the heading. So those are going to be fundamentals to anything else that we do. Even the things on the bottom cannot be done effectively if we cannot have control of the ball. We can't pass the ball well. It doesn't work. Next one. Along with those technical pieces, there's also general principles of the game that we have to kind of make sure that the people know. So when it comes down to attacking, there's certain ways that we have to get done. So the penetration, that's going to, that's, either shooting, you're dribbling, or you're passing into someone that's about to score a goal, right? So you have these things that they also have to understand as far as, and you have the attacking side of understanding these concepts, and then you have the defending concepts that you have to understand as well too. So those are also going to be important for the players to understand, and we're going to make sure that the coaches are teaching these particular aspects, because those are the fundamentals, and you can't really get past anything more unless you really have a clear understanding, first of all, of being able to receive a ball so you can take your next action to pass the ball is important, and also knowing what support is for your player that doesn't. For the player that has the ball, players have to know what support is. Next one. So this one right here is just, I want to go through this quickly. We all want to get on the same page. The way you get clubs on the same page is you have a model. A model means that your ideas are there, your philosophies on there. What are you doing this for? What is the profile of your players, and what's your formation you're going to be doing? But what that means is that everybody understands this, and we all want to get on the same page, and we want to be teaching the same things. Well, that right there on the bottom, and within that, we want to be able to have our style that identifies as an attacking team and a defending team, right? Of course, that's the name of it, but systematic buildup, that means you're moving the ball along the field rather than just playing kickball. The famous thing that you might hear on the sidelines that we kind of don't really like parents saying is boot it. So that'll be something that we just don't want to do. That's not what we want to do. We want to be able to do a little bit better than that, have a little bit more abilities to be able to move the ball forward. Next one. It's just an overview of what the whole club, we want the whole club to be doing, instilling passion, because without passion, you can't do the rest of them. Next one. This is a competitive, and again, to master the things that I told you about, the early ones, then you get into kind of a unit play. Those become a little bit easier to do, and now you can work on strategy because they're constantly understand the role within that particular system of play, if you will. Next one. So those here we show you kind of the formations that they'll be using on both defense and attack. And notice that I haven't really gotten out of any of the the main things that we want to do. We want to be an attacking team. We want to be a strong defending team. And on the transition part, that means when you have the ball, what do you do when you lose it? And when you don't have the ball, what do you do to win it? So that's basically what that means. But it's all consistent. We want to get everybody on the same page, and we'll be having training sessions and things like that. We'll talk about that in a second. Next. This is the building out of the back. We'll go straight to the advantages. It allows teams to control possession and dictate. It stretches out our opposition. It creates gaps so we can move the ball through it in possession. It builds confidence in our players because they're achieving something together as a collective rather than just playing kickball. And we create more scoring opportunities because somebody's bound to break. And we offset. We catch the opposing team wide open, right? And so we're able to score a little bit better. Next. This will be our midfield play. This is where all the possession, all the creativity happens here. We want them to be able to, this is where the technical pieces come in again. One more time, we want those midfielders to be able to dribble really, really well, receive really, really well, pass really, really well, and even shoot really, really well. They're not limited to just working in the midfield. They can go up and attack. But essentially, we're still sticking to the main thing, and this is focus on possession. Next slide. In our attacking, we want to be able to be able to exploit space with our forwards, be able to finish off on goal. We want to be creative and a lot of passing to be able to offset the defense so we can get a shot on goal. Somebody can break through. So the emphasis on attack with speed and pace. I mean, I'm talking it has to be done quickly. The quicker you do it, the opponents are caught sleeping, if you will. So all of this, we're going to work on with the coaches to make sure that we set up plans like training sessions that look to be able to fit and get everybody on the same page. Next slide. These are just examples of training sessions that you can do, and you can mix them up every way. You should have a defensive training session on one day and an attacking training session on another. And if you're going to have a third practice, now you get more specific with players that you work on position specific. You can work with the forwards, you can work with the defenders, you can work with the midfield and things like that. These are just some topics that you can run. Next. So here are the training that on the left-hand side, it's a copy of one of my training session that I'll be creating. So we're expecting coaches to have their own version of their training sessions of what they want to be doing, and showing us that they are creating a training session that's going to benefit our players, that it's also going to be fun, they're going to learn, but it's going towards what we want, right? We want players to attack, we want players to defend, and we are players to know what needs to be done if they lose it or they win the ball. So the evaluation, to be able to kind of get that, we want to be able also provide an evaluation form, which the coaches already got for your players. That way we're able to kind of see at a year's end where exactly they've improved and where they still need work. So because if we don't have a barometer, there's no way of knowing their improvement. So here we will have a fall season, and then we'll have a spring season of evaluation for the player and where they're at currently. I went through it pretty quickly. If you have any questions, you can get a hold of me if you want to, or email me, and I'll be happy to answer those questions for you. Thank you.
Yes. We're opening it up for any questions. You can use the chat, or you can speak up. And if not, I got a couple other things I can add in. Yeah, that's a really good question, Melissa. As far as how the 2010s are going to affect the 11s. What we think we know is that there's 7 2010 girls that are not going into high school, and we have this challenge every single year. And so obviously seven girls isn't enough to form a team. So now that's 7. Whether all 7 decide they want to play fall, we don't know. So the idea would be those 8th graders that are the 2010s, if they want a place to play, then we're going to have a place for them to train for sure. And then depending on our numbers, with the 11s, and the number of 10s, we may play in a 2010 league, or if we don't have a whole lot of 10s, but we got a lot of 11s, then we'll have to make a decision around that. But we've typically made room for the 2010s because some of the 11s will have the same problem next year. And so unfortunately, United Soccer decided to follow international rules and just go by birth year, which really messed things up because we used to have it as an August or September birthday, right? And so it made life a lot easier. We had very few of these, and now it's just a constant problem for our fall season. So in the summer, the 10s will be with the 10s. In the fall, we'll add them in and they'll be able to train. And like I said, depending on what league we can get into and where that fits with our group, most likely those 10s will play with the 11s just because it's the right thing to do for them. But we'll have to make that decision after tryouts and after we have commitment and all those things. Practice in Albany versus Corvallis. So in the summer, we'll be back and forth. Corvallis 1 day a week, and then at Crystal Lake. We haven't really talked a whole lot about this, but our fields at Crescent Valley and Corvallis were much more difficult this winter. We worked really hard. Bryce worked really hard, along with a couple other our staff working to try to get field space at CHS and CD, and we just struck out. And in prior years, we were able to get some. So when we get into late October, we may lose Crystal Lake, and then we'll have to go to Y. That's just the way it is. But summer and September, October, we'll be going back and forth between Crystal Lake and YMCA, so that's more balanced. We are not actively, we're starting to work on some possibilities, just so you know, for a turf field in Corvallis. We have some pretty good leads on how to get some things funded, as well as some fundraising opportunities and some other grants. So as we go along this next 3 to 6 months, we'll probably be putting out some solicitation to families as well as community to work on getting a field, but that's probably 2 to 3 years away at the very earliest, right? For us to get the Y, we're so lucky that we were able to do that, because if we didn't have the Y, I don't know what we'd be doing. We'd be paying on parking lots. So I know it's a pain in the tush. I live out in Northwest Lewisburg by CV, and frankly, it's just as close going to the Y that it is going to Crystal Lake for me. So I do know that there's, depending on where you live, and if you're out in Philomath or whatever, it is a little bit further drive. But some of us in Nordic Corvallis, it's just not all that bad, and but it's still more than what we're used to in the Corvallis folks. So I get it. We get it, and we're trying to be sensitive of that. We're really out of options. So we're trying. We're working on some things, but like I said, once we have something more determined, we'll be asking for donations to get a field. So that way, at least know. But it's on our radar. How does that sound?
I have a question about can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question about the structure of practices. So is the plan for the Navy team to have it 3 times a week or 2 times a week? And also a little bit of consistency. Like, what can you say about consistency in terms of days? The reason I'm asking, because we've been pretty consistent, the first half of the year or the first part of the season, but then the second season, our practices moved to Tuesdays and Fridays, which I felt like was not really a good, good days at all, because Fridays, a lot of kids have school activities or family events, and then we end up playing games on Saturday morning, for example. Yeah. So there's no like recovery day, between. So it just like the second part of the season, and my daughter is also a keeper, so she had to actually choose between practicing with her team or doing some keeper training. So just felt a little bit, I would say, messy, like for
Yeah,
me
so-
at least, you
So
know.
let me address that real quick. We agree with you. I don't know if you've really been out to practice, but we divide a 100-yard by 100-yard field into 8 segments. Okay, and we do that twice a day, so that's 16 sessions a day. We have 30 teams, 35 teams. So you just do the math. We're doing the very best we can, and we've actually, the year before, we were able to kind of sneak that in because we were able to use the North Pod of YMCA. But YMCA is, because of this project, just to be really transparent, they're actually not making money on all this, right? We're paying $15,000 a year to use that turf. So we've got a smoking deal. Okay. So the problem that you're seeing is so in the fall we'll have no problem at all because the high school teams aren't. But once we get into January, November, January, high school kids come in. And so, and our agreement with the Y is that we're not supposed to start till 6 to 9. They're letting us get on early. So that's a nice thing. So we're doing the very best we can. And so, and the other piece is you have a wonderful coach in Sam who coaches 3 other teams. So he has 4 teams. So it isn't just, so we have multiple coaches like that. So you can imagine the puzzle pieces that Jason Hauer has been doing the scheduling, and I've done it myself. It is a pain in the tush because not only do you got to figure out the days for these girls, the teams to practice on, but how it matches up with the coaches because they have to have back-to-back practices. It is impossible. Plus, we have academies, right? So we have academy teams, we have clinics, we have our U8 league at the rec, we have an under a U8 league, and we have the tennis side. So there's just a ton of things that we're trying to schedule. So the long way of saying is, yes, it was messy. We spent literally hours and hours and hours trying to figure that out. And we put out 3 or 4 schedules to the coaches, and then we get stuff back and have to redo it. So we understand it sucks, right? But we're just doing the best we can. And so the good news is summer and fall should be pretty straightforward. We get into January through March, it's just rough. We don't have field space. We were able to do games at the South Albany. And we were able to use some nights in January and February to train at South Albany, which took some of the pressure off. But once we lost that field, then we had just the Y, and that's where you saw a lot of the mess. So we tried to, I practice on Fridays, by the way, so I feel your pain. You know, I had other things going on too in my life, but that's the way it was. So one of the things that's going to help is that we've gotten rid of the pre-high school academy. So the Navy teams are now the academy teams. So your question about 3 days a week, it's not going to be all the time. We're going to do it in periodization. So for instance, this group will probably go to Pac Northwest in January. So, you know, a couple of months before or before state cup or before something important, we'll pick up a three practice session. But it's not going to be all the time. We gotta go through the season and make sure the girls are healthy or the boys are healthy. But the three days a week is to supplement. And those sessions, I think Victor was talking about this, those sessions will be based on other things besides technical, tactical. There'll be some set pieces. There'll be some specific technical or tactical things that we want to work on, but those added practice will help. Maybe use some scrimmages. So, and our training, by the way, sorry to keep talking, but our training with those limited spaces is very difficult for the coaches because we can't expand the field. We can't get to bigger things. But I will say we're lucky that we have soccer fields. We're lucky we have turf. It's just not, you know, and being from Corvallis, I don't know if everybody knows this, but in the original budget, when they built all the new schools, they had 4 turf fields, and a couple of community members took away 2. So we would have had turf fields at the middle schools, which would have been pretty awesome for the whole community. So we're just doing the best we can, and we feel you. You know, we've talked about having, you know, for when we had USL academies, I was training on Sundays. So, you know, those are things we've thought about, but we tried to keep it on Monday through Friday. Sorry, it's long-winded. Any other questions? Hopefully that answered your question. And I know it's not satisfactory, but reality is we're just doing the best we can.
You brought something up, Blake, that, yeah, you know, USL, if, you know, the academy actually was pretty good on a Sunday as as the third practice, maybe for, you can have practice Tuesday, Thursday or whatever. but maybe having that third practice at academy on a Sunday afternoon, that was always pretty prime.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, it gave kids their practices and they came back and focused on Sunday and ready to go. So like, it was, you know,
Yeah, that's really, yeah.
if that would help scheduling out, I think that would be a great idea. I don't know if that would.
Yeah, we did it with the older boys, and we worry about church and family time on Sundays and all those things. And so we get worried. We didn't want to put it into the spring, but going forward, there's heavy conversation with us about, because of field space, it's the right thing to do. So yeah, so that's something we'll look at. And because OISA went to 1 game a weekend in general,
Yeah.
we're not doing 2 games a weekend, so that helps free up some of, you know, we were doing 3 practices, 2 games. That was just a lot, right? So yeah, thank you for saying that, Sal, because I do think the Sunday practices would be pretty good.
I mean, just to let you know, most churches end by 2:30. So
Yeah,
I
but
go to
there-
church. We go to church in the morning, and you know, after church, and that's okay. And but I mean that time when Rube would have it for the younger kids, and you know, it was perfect. We would just show up at 5 or 6, whatever, and hour and a half practice. And you know, I think my kids actually liked that because they came into the week ready to go. Okay, I learned something this Sunday. I'm going to go Tuesday, Thursday to my practice, or Monday, Wednesday. I'm ready to go. I mean, that was just you know what I experienced over the last 4 or 5 years when we had that like that. But anyways, that's just my opinion, my thoughts.
Yep. We, of course, you know, whatever we do, we're going to get people say that's awesome, and people are like, you know, lame. So, you know, it's like, we just gotta pick our poison and run with it, and just, we're doing the best we can. But Sundays is definitely on the table next year, because we're probably gonna have more teams, and we just gotta figure it out.
It's part of the growth, the good part of growing, right? That's
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And helps with the pressure on the field's availability too,
Yeah.
like spread the pressure of the field.
Yeah.
Just to use Sunday, yeah. Mhm.
I agree.
Not actually. Just one more thing. Sorry, that would add up. Maybe even open up Corvallis and CV on a Sunday, right? I mean, I don't know if that would.
It would for sure.
So-
Yeah, I mean, I went by CV a couple, because I live out here in this area, and lacrosse was using the field, and they'd have like 5 kids out there doing lacrosse. And I'm like, can we just get half the field? but you know, it's their time, and it's it's the district's field. And by the way, kudos to the Corvallis School District in that for the last 3 years, they have not charged us 1 dime. So that's the other part of the reason we talked about fees going up. We just got a very good reality check from Greater Albany Public Schools as well as Corvallis School District, because they need to recoup some of their costs. So some of our raising our tuition or fees is because of the pressure coming from fields. And so that's just the reality of it.
Parents, I just want to say, I'm sorry to cut off, but if we cut off, you guys are able to get a hold of us at any time. It's about to shut off on us. Bryce will actually confirm that with me. But if you have any questions of what you saw, or have further questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, you'd be happy to answer your questions at any time. Us, Blake, or Bryce, just get a hold of us, and we can talk on the phone or email or meet at the field, whichever you like. Okay, I just wanted to let you know, because it will shut off soon.
Yeah, we have another meeting with the 2010s here at 7:00. So
so I just stay on here then.
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
So 4 years ago, I would have been here for 5 hours.
Yeah, right.
So Sam is going to be our coach next year. Did I hear you right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is a good thing for you guys. He's great.
As long as we don't get the short end of the stick again and end up with the schedule something like Tuesday and Friday again. So
Well, I'm gonna tell Elena that to make sure we do the Friday Sunday training for you guys. I'm kidding. No, we'll get it evenly distributed.